Hello and welcome to the Coaches Cup podcast. I am Sonya Green from Sonya Green Coaching.
And I'm Judith Fender. I'm one of the amazing coaches with the No BS weight loss program.
Today we are talking about two things can be true.
Yes, this is true.
It seems a little simple, but it's a concept that I've been reading about again recently in a book called Good Inside by Dr. Becky Kennedy. And I thought it just really made an impact on me. And that's why I wanted us to kind of hash it out today.
Mm-hmm. So when we were pre-gaming a little bit, I was telling Sonya about, like we were trying to think how to begin this.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about the story where you hear about the elephant in the room. So there's two people and an elephant in a room, and both of the people are blindfolded. And one person is at the head and the other is at the tail. And the person at the tail feels the tail and calls it a rope, says it's a rope. And while that feels true to them, the person at the head is feeling the trunk and thinks it's a snake, and that's their truth. But the truth is they're both holding parts of the truth. They're both perceiving their truth, and they're both touching part of an elephant.
And they're both right.
And they're both right
in what they are experiencing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so then when the tension comes, right, because that's part of the air quote problem when we are learning to hold true truths is in that space in the middle. That tension is what to do with that tension.
Yes. Yeah. And there are two things that we can do with the tension, or two things that one thing that we traditionally do and one that we can do to improve our relationships and improve our relationship with ourselves as well. The thing that we often go to and when there are two truths is we try to convince everyone else or the other person in the room that our truth is the right one.
Right. And why is that?
Because we want to be right.
Right. Well, we're programmed for that.
Yes.
we're programmed to believe in our truth because that was part of the survival for the caveman.
Mm-hmm.
Like believing in your truth.
Yeah, and
perception.
Having one truth, because that's where your people are. All of your people are with you and believing that truth. And if we start opening space for more than one truth, then that's scary. And whose truth are we going to? There's not a solid landing place there. But when we're in that mode of trying to convince people of our one truth, that usually, I mean, we've all had that happen to us where somebody basically tells us, oh, well, no, that's not the way it happened. That's not what happened. You misunderstood. And it's very, it really sets apart that person. They're told that their experience isn't valid. I think about, we do this a lot. I've experienced it recently being around some children, and there was a child who was crying because a mom was putting medicine on, like a bug bite or something, and the little girl kept saying, I'm scared, and the mom said the thing that I think most moms have said at some point. I know I have said it. There's nothing to be scared about. And so when I think about trying to convince somebody that their truth isn't the right one, that's something that I think about. We try to convince a child that just because an experience isn't scary to me, then it shouldn't be scary to them, which is that leaves the child feeling very disconnected, right?
Mhm.
In a world where the thing we want most, our brains want
Right.
most, is connection.
Right. Well, and their little nervous system is in, fight or flight. And so to them, it is scary because they're the ones hurting.
Exactly.
So when you consider the nervous system that the child is in, then it makes perfect sense to their experience and how validating or invalidating, depending on what
Yeah.
story you tell the child, whether you validate, yes, this is scary, and I'm here with you, and you'll be okay.
Yeah.
Including that and can be helpful for the child to manage the tension of the experience.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't mean, I think sometimes that we feel like we can't validate their experience because then we can't do what needs to be done.
Yes. Mhm.
But in a situation like that, it's perfectly okay to say that I totally understand that you're scared. I see that you're scared, but we still need to put this medicine on
Mm,
bug bite or the scrape or whatever it is. Two
mhm,
things are true here. You're
mhm,
feeling scared, and I see that,
mhm,
but we still have to put medicine on it.
mhm,
And so that allows the child to connect and
mhm,
feel not shut off the
mhm.
parent.
I again, like I would be a stickler for the word and like it
Yes,
hurt, you're scared, and we need to put this medicine on
yes, yes,
and
yeah,
and to help them through.
because and connects those two.
Right? And it's kind of a neutralizer.
Yes.
It takes the inflammation. I don't know where I pulled. I was going to say the inflammatory response away, and it
It's
helps
the
just kind of
inflammation,
neutral the
yeah.
inflammation. Yeah.
No, but
What?
absolutely,
Mhm,
absolutely, that word fits there because that it's the inflammation that keeps us separated,
mhm,
that keep
mhm,
it puts distance between two people in a relationship. Now, I'm sure there's
mhm.
doctors out there who are gonna tell me we've totally used that wrong,
Right.
but in my mind, inflammation is swelling, right? It keeps us
Mm,
separated, it keeps so we need
mhm,
to reduce that inflammation
mhm,
and bring that connection back.
mhm,
And
mhm,
realize that two things can be true.
mhm, mhm.
And I can be curious. That's where the space comes in. I can be curious about someone else's experience rather than feeling the need to convince them that their experience isn't right because it's not mine.
Right. I guess I'm thinking about trying to draw on, and I think it's from the coaching world here, but clearly we all live in our own thoughts, in
Mhm.
our own world. And the more that we
Our own
can,
lens.
with our own glasses,
Yeah.
that the more that we understand opposites and finding the both the positive and the negative in the opposites, and
Mhm.
being able to hold that space. And I'm thinking of the word equanimity. Is this right? Like that ability to be even tempered, to be calm and have composure, that the more we can hold that space, hold that tension, the more equanimity. I might be speaking out of I think I'm right though.
Yeah, I think so. Well, it
It's a balance
it
to be
is about
balanced. And a good leader has that.
yes. Yes,
Mhm,
absolutely, I think and a good leader listens more
mhm,
than they speak,
mhm, mhm.
and they're
Which is
listening. Yeah.
which is interesting. I was doing a little research about leaders and about which I did not know this in our world, that extroverts were valued for their ability to go out and be, like take the front and center stage. But really, it's the introvert, the one that sits back and listens and evaluates and has equanimity, a calmness and a coolness and an even mind, the one that has empathy and compassion.
Mhm.
that is really kind of your more of your secret power, your secret
Yeah.
leader, your quiet leader.
Yeah. Because you're able to connect with people
Mhm.
better.
Mhm.
You're not out there. You don't need to convince somebody you're right.
Mhm.
You're able to just listen and take in the best parts of whatever is being said.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's super interesting. Um,
Mhm.
and I was reading when I was thinking about this also, one of the things that Dr. Kennedy mentioned is that people listen for 2 different reasons. They listen either to respond or they listen to understand.
Mm.
And I think about how many times in the past I have, and again, I know that we all do it. We listen because we're waiting for a minute to jump in and, get my point of view in there. And that's
Mm.
listening to respond. And that
Mm.
never creates real connection.
Mm.
We're listening because we want to convince somebody that our argument is right. And when we listen to understand, those are those moments where we're just, like open, like, tell me more.
Mhm. I think when I hear you talk about that, I think about, it comes up often in coaching where people feel resentment towards their partners,
Yes.
and trying to help someone coach them around understanding like what else could be true, to
Mhm.
hold that other lens, like what is their perspective and why do you what survival mode was your spouse in when they said this or made this
Yeah.
decision or did these things. So the more that you can, I'm going to say, zoom out and
Mhm.
have that greater perspective or space, and to be able to see the more flexible, I think they call it cognitive flexibility,
Mhm.
to have that to bring to a relationship, and to hold that space and be like,
Yes.
I understand.
Yeah.
And it gets better. And so that when you do get angry, then you're not immediately going to anger, or you will, but that's your trigger. Then you check in and you're like, oh, what else could be true? So you get that and in there, and you're kind of diffusing, you're taking the flame down, you're
Yeah.
not going into anger, and you're going into understanding and acceptance. And this makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the things that we coach on just so often.
Hmm.
And that question, what else could be true? And so now I've started when I find myself listening to respond, that's my kind of awareness moment.
Hmm.
That's my check-in.
Hmm.
Okay, what are we doing here? And what else could be true? What could happen if I open up and start listening to understand?
Hmm. Yeah.
It can really change your relationship with anyone you try it with. Whether
Hmm.
it's a spouse, whether it's a child, whether it's your boss or your coworker or somebody who works for you if you're a leader. Um, and it's tough. I have been in management, I've been in administration. I understand so many times people come to me and I'm like, but and I need to explain it to them. And then I'm like, okay, back up,
Hmm.
listen. Listen to understand where they are. What else could be true in this moment?
Hmm.
Because we can be very quick to judge. Oh, I know this person. I know what they're here for.
Oh my word. Mhm.
And those are the moments when it's time to back up, turn the temperature down, and believe that two things can be true.
I was coaching a client the other day. It's so funny you said that, like, immediately when you said that. She 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 works at a, like, in a school setting, and people come in and out of her office all day, right? And I honestly cannot remember the thought, but as she continued on talking, and I was like, well, what is the nature of your job? What is it you do? And she's like, da, 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 and I work on, and I said, well, who do you work with? Well, I collaborate on projects with people. I was like, oh, so you're a collaborator. Your job is to be a collaborator. And so she had like messaged me about how thinking that thought now when the people came in the room, I'm a collaborator, instead of telling that story of, oh my God, they're going to come in here and,
take all my time. I won't
yes,
get
like,
anything done.
oh, my work is collaborative.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, that was just it's funny. Because, because I work from home, I don't have many interruptions except for my little 6-pound wiener dog. And
yeah.
And the
no, it's a real thing. It's a real thing in an office. I feel that. But what a huge gift to think I am a collaborator.
She said it was like been a game changer at work.
Yeah.
Thinking about that. Yeah.
So I guess as we think about it, do you have anything else you want to say before we wrap it up?
Well, let me just flip through my notes here. When we accept our way of thinking is not the only way, and value alternative perspectives and the insight they bring, we become more cognitively flexible and adapt to our thinking.
Yeah. Again, that, if we're flexible, we're growing. If we are trying to convince somebody else, then we aren't flexible. We aren't growing. We're brittle. We're dry. We need to convince somebody with our dry, brittle argument. It really helps me to visualize it.
I can tell. I think you've said that before.
I have, because I have that mental image that I use.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah. I saw in my notes, and I think this would be good. Remember when that picture went around of the dress and people either saw it as like white and gold, or what was it, like blue and green?
Blue and brown.
It was something crazy. Like, and you either saw it this way or the other way. And like, this might be kind of that, like the truth, everyone's truth.
Yes.
They saw it their way. That was their truth.
Yes. That's a fantastic example.
Right.
Yeah. And there was something else that with a word that was said, and some people heard one word and some people heard the other word.
Oh, what was that word?
Yeah.
I remember that one too. And you just, what?
Yeah. And once you heard it, Anyway, so be flexible, be growing, be curious. That's our message so often, but it can improve your relationships in a way that can promote so much growth in your life. We talk about gaslighting, we're talking about people trying to convince us that one way is true. And that can be so damaging, whether we're 5 years old and we're scared because we're getting medicine, or whether we're 50 years old and we need to believe that we're part of the group. So open up. What 2 things can be true? And tell us on our Facebook page this week, what 2 things have you realized are true?
What color dress did you see?
I don't even remember.
We need to find that image.
I know.
Find that image and put it on the Facebook page.
The funny thing is, there was a point where I kind of went back and forth because I could see both of them. I don't remember when that happened. Yeah.
I think it's white and gold and black and blue. Yeah, right. There it is.
Right.
Yeah.
And I saw the black and blue.
Anyway. Equanimity, right? Being in a state of equanimity, holding both true, both in being in the center. Like I'm thinking of seeing like this, like a set of scales, standing in the middle and just being in the middle and seeing like, yes, I can see where both of these would be equally true.
Yeah. It's both a trunk or a snake or a rope.
It's both. That's right.
All right. If you're looking for coaching, you can find me at sonyagreencoaching.com or on Instagram at Sonya, SONYA _ green coaching.
And you can find me coaching exclusively for the No BS weight loss program. And you can also follow me on Instagram, just Judy, just JUSTJUDIE. I would love to see you over there. I need to get back on that old Instagram thing. I haven't been anywhere to like, stepped out here on the farm, like
Yeah.
deer.
Well, and also find us on our Facebook page. We
Yeah.
love to get comments from our listeners because we just love the feedback, right?
Right, because it's just me and Sonya just talking to each other, and
Yeah.
until y'all leave us a message.
Yeah, so it's we love that. We could also do with a few reviews.
Yeah.
It's been a little bit since we've had some new reviews. So if you haven't reviewed the podcast on iTunes, jump on over there, leave us a little 5-star review.
Something.
If you don't like us, then don't worry about that. No big
Yeah,
deal. You don't
yeah,
have to do that,
yeah.
but all right. Well, we'll be back next week. We'll see you then.
Bye.